Hi everyone, it's Caitlin. Forgive me for the state that I'm in right now. It is 1 o'clock. I am exhausted. However, I just fixate on things that seem to be kind of controversial, and I can't get it out of my head. And I feel like maybe I'm being compelled by the Lord to talk about it. This video is not meant to cause any hurt, or I'm not passing judgment on anyone. I'm just speaking my mind and my thoughts. Don't know if I'll post this video or not. We'll see how it turns out. I'm just a person that I just fixate on things until I can talk to somebody about it. It's 1 o'clock in the morning right now. Don't have anybody to talk to about it. So here I am making a video instead. I am not scared exactly of how the next couple of years are going to go. I guess I say it that way. I don't know. Sorry. I'm kind of slow right now. With the way that the world is going from my Christian viewpoint, and also I probably just lost like 50 of you. If there's even 50 of you watching, probably just lost you all. Joe Biden being elected president, I feel like there's going to be abortion clinics just popping up everywhere. On the Democratic side, they're definitely pro-choice. A lot of them, not all of them, but I know that Joe Biden supports that. And so I just wanted to talk about not necessarily how I feel about that, but maybe to the women that are struggling with the choice to have an abortion, or to keep the baby, or to give the baby up for adoption, or maybe you've completely already decided and you're not looking for any advice. And so I just pray that you watch this video till the end, and that it's helpful to somebody. Maybe not right now, maybe 10 months down the road, or maybe never, who knows. But I just pray that this video is helpful to somebody. So to start off, or something that echoes in my mind all the time that somebody told me, that morality is ever changing. It's always changing. Our consciousness of good and bad around the world is different. And I'd never looked at it that way because I've always had a Christian background. So my morals have always been set around God, and so I knew his expectations right and wrong from the beginning. However, that does not mean that I always agreed with it, that I didn't struggle with it. In fact, it wasn't until this year that really I 100% committed to the idea that I am pro-life. I really struggled with the idea of a woman, if she was, taken advantage of, that she wouldn't have the ability to decide not to have that baby. However, I'm getting ahead of myself. So morals are ever changing in this world because we don't have that foundation of God. God sets the morals, starting with just the 10 Commandments. We know it's wrong to lie. We know it's wrong to murder. We know it's wrong to commit adultery. We know it's wrong to steal We know it's wrong to hate people. All those things God has put on our heart, and we know that's wrong. And so we do things, though, to justify or convince ourselves that it's okay in those moments. So, for instance, I know that, say lying is wrong. However, I could justify it by saying, well, but, it would hurt this person to tell them the truth, or accepting this would be easier than being honest, things like that. And so I had somebody ask me one time, how do you know that your views are from God and that they're not just you putting your own spin on things? How do you know that they're from God? And I didn't really have an answer for her at that point, but I've thought about it for a long time. And this conversation that I had with this person that I love dearly just was going downhill. I was not prepared for this conversation whatsoever. And I think God put me in that position to show me, you need to get prepared, Caitlin, because this is not going so great. I'm all over the place. I apologize. But they asked me, how am I objective in my beliefs and my morals? How do I know that it comes from God? And I have to say it's because God has changed me in my beliefs. I used to believe that certain things that were okay, that God says are not okay. And he's very clear on his moral standards. There's no gray area. It is very black and white with God. However, when we disagree with something and we think that it's not fair, for instance, there's a lot of people that I knew who claimed to be Christian when I was growing up. However, they didn't believe in hell. Or they believe that when they get to heaven, we don't know what happened. So God might just forgive them of all of their sins and send them to heaven, despite the fact that they didn't live a life for Jesus. These are things that we tell ourselves because we hope, it's a horrible thought that anybody would go to hell. And we don't understand exactly the way that God works. We don't understand who he is when we make those assumptions, And so, what was I even going off about? Oh, so my morals have changed over time. I used to try to convince myself that he wouldn't send certain people to hell because I didn't see what they were doing as wrong. However, it doesn't matter what I see as right or wrong. It matters what he sees as right or wrong. So now, going off that, obviously, God would be against abortion. However, I see things from a scientific point of view as well. And so there's somebody that I talked to briefly that posted something about abortion. And they said that just because you believe it's a life doesn't mean that I have to. Well, number one, we can, because it's a whole bunch of cells in the beginning is what they're saying, basically. The fetus, which is a word that we made up so that we don't have to say baby, because baby is emotional, whereas fetus is scientific. We don't have to have any emotion attached to it. Anyways, we were having this short conversation about how she didn't believe in certain stages that it was human or that it was living. And so that made me think, well, scientifically, once DNA is there, which is at the very beginning of conception, DNA, it is human because the DNA claims it to be human. Just like that's like part of what separates me from being a pig. My DNA is not the same as a pig's DNA. I'm human and it's a pig. Another thing is consciousness, which they actually believe that fetuses have consciousness at the moment of conception. Consciousness of right and wrong, consciousness of, well, I wouldn't say right and wrong for the baby because children don't know right and wrong yet. So that's not, he puts it on our heart, but we have to be at a certain level of capacity to understand it. So I guess the fetus wouldn't know right and wrong, but consciousness to be aware and to think. Oh, what was the other one that I was thinking about? Oh no, it just went totally off the top of my head. But scientifically, the DNA proves that it is human from the moment of conception, and also that it's life. And so this is kind of an odd scenario that my mind was going through, but say if your dog got pregnant because you didn't have the money to get the dog fixed beforehand, and you don't have the money to take care of the puppies, would you just take it to a kill shelter and, kill the dog and the puppies? No, you adopt the puppies out, or you give the dog to somebody for them to take care of. Now, a dog is very different than a human life. Obviously, the dog doesn't, or you don't have to carry the dog's puppies, so you don't have to go through all those body changes. I understand that it's different, but at a certain level, we understand that it would be wrong to kill the puppies, so how could we not know that it would be wrong to take a life? And also, there have been women that have been taken advantage of, and there's, a specific story that I watched. It was a documentary called The Life of John, and this woman had been raped and she got pregnant and she carried the baby full term, and she was told by the doctors that the baby was going to kill her and she needed to abort the baby, otherwise she was going to die. And she said, and she looked at her parents and said, love him and take care of him for me. Give him my love that I'm not going to be able to. And from a mother's instinct, me being a mother, it is our job and our instinct to know, take care of, and protect your child. Abortion is the complete opposite of what it means to be a mother. Instead of protecting your child, and at what point does it become your child then? And no, you may not have chose to be a mother, or you don't want to be a mother, but the fact is that you are a mother. And you have a choice. That's right, you do. You have the choice to not have the baby. However, does that make it right just because you have the choice? I have the choice to lie. I have the choice to steal. I have the choice to murder. I have the choice to cheat on my husband. I have the choice to do all sorts of things. But does that make it right because I have the choice to do it? No. Now, again, you may not look at it as murder, but if you look at the science that it is life from the moment of conception, and that it is human from the moment of conception because it's DNA, science says that it is a human life. And why is it called pro-choice versus pro-life? Because you're putting your choice over life, basically. That was something else that I thought of. Why do we accept it as pro-choice versus pro-life? You literally are just saying it when you choose pro-choice. You have chosen you over life. That to me is really sad that, people don't see it that way, and I just don't understand, and people probably won't understand me, and that's okay. But and this video is probably going to make a lot of people mad if I end up posting it, and I'm sorry. That is not my intent. My intent is that if there is a scared mom out there, or there is someone who, is on the fence in between, really think about it. Especially if you're a Christian, because I have been there. I thought, you know what, God gives them the choice. God gives us the choice to murder. God gives us the free will to lie. God gives us the free will to steal. Free will to steal. So why should I not give them their choice? But we would never rightfully say, oh, well, this person's kid is, being a nuisance to her and she can no longer give them a good life. So it's okay for her to kill them. Or uh, it's okay because she has the choice to murder her husband. It's okay. Like, there, there has to be morality somewhere. That is wrong. Yet we stop here because we want to justify our actions. And I understand that your body would be going through a lot. I understand that maybe the child may not have the life that you hope for. However, I think that you don't know the life that that child is going to have, and you're taking that away. You're thinking about all the bad things that could happen, but think about all the wonderful things that could happen. I know somebody who was taken advantage of when she was young, and she ended up having the baby. And she has a beautiful child. Don't want to say what she has, but she has a beautiful child, and she loves that child, and it's a blessing to her. And so if she would have went through and had that abortion, she would have never had that. She would have never had this amazing personality, this amazing inquisitive child in front of her that teaches her something every day, and teaches her to be thankful every day, and that she's blessed every day. And so, yeah, you can look at all the scary things that could possibly happen, but think of all the wonderful things that could happen by having this child too. I know a lot of women that say that they were in this really dark place, and then they got pregnant unexpectedly, and it saved them. It brought them out of either like their drug addiction, or it brought them out of their party life, or just whatever. I truly believe that each and every child is a blessing. And you can't tell me that when you look at that newborn baby that you don't think, "Oh, what a blessing." You don't look at that newborn baby and think, "Oh, well, that baby shouldn't have ever been alive because who knows what kind of life it's going to have." You can look at a fetus inside a womb because it doesn't look like that newborn baby yet. And so then you say, oh, well, maybe it's not human. But then look at a newborn baby. Does it look the same as a 2-year-old? Does a 2-year-old look the same as a 10-year-old? Does a 10-year-old look the same as an adult? No, there's all stages of life. Just like in a frog, for instance. They have different stages of life and they look different. However, the DNA is still the same and it's still alive. And so just because it's in the womb does not mean that it's not alive, does not mean that it's not a human life. And I urge you, even if you don't want to look at it from a Christian standpoint, look at it from a scientific standpoint. Science says that it is a life. The world tells you it's not because it wants to justify and give you self-gratification. That's a whole nother topic, but this is just something that I felt like I needed to express and talk about. And if you don't know the Lord, and you are searching, I'd say start with His Word. I'm always happy to talk to anybody about the Lord. I know people that, they believe that, Christians came into their home and taught them about the Lord, and they felt like they didn't get enough answers. And then they were told, well, you're on your own basically, and they thought that was cruel. However, and when I heard that from somebody, I was crushed and I thought, what a failure. However, we can only take you so far. God is the one. If you're really looking for a relationship with Him, then you should be seeking that relationship with Him, not through other people. And that is what I have found for myself as well. The most growth that I have made in my spiritual life has been when I seeked God through Him, not through anybody else, not through what somebody else has told me or what the church tells me, what the world around me tells me, what my life experiences tell me, none of that. The only thing that has ever actually gave me a relationship with the Lord is talking with Him through prayer and worship, and also reading His Word and putting away my beliefs and my thoughts and what I want, because guess what? What I want does not matter. If you believe that the Lord exists and He has His own opinions and His own thoughts just like we do, because we are made in His image, and yet His own opinions and thoughts are completely righteous because He is God, and we sometimes don't have the capacity to understand. Just like some people, a lot of atheists will say, well, if He's such a good God, why does He allow suffering? Well, suffering is the only world that would allow love, because we would all be robots if there was no sin. Because if there was no sin, then there would be no suffering. But God has to allow sin so that there's suffering, so that there can be love, so that we can have compassion on each other, so that we can lean on each other and love each other, so that we can seek Him and have a relationship with Him, because we're so stubborn that we don't seek Him until we're down on our knees, on our deepest pit, and we just don't know what else to do or who to turn to. Nobody else can take control of this situation. And then you feel like sometimes, there's a lot of people that I've talked about, when you were in your deepest moment, in your deepest pit, you think that you pulled yourself out because you didn't hear the answer that you wanted, or you didn't get the prayer answered that you wanted. And then you say that you healed yourself. However, how do you know that you healed yourself and God didn't heal you? Even though you didn't get the answer that you wanted, how do you know that you made that progress through your own doing and not God doing it? Because let me tell you, you can't do anything that God doesn't allow you to do. If God didn't want you to be healed, He would not allow you to be healed. However, He wanted you to be healed. And sometimes, it's hard to hear. Sometimes He doesn't allow us to do things that we think would be good for us because He knows what's best for us. Take, for example, someone asked me, why did God allow my kids to, be, I don't want to identify anybody, but basically have certain issues. And I just blurted out the first thing that came to my mind. It was not godly, and it's actually another way that somebody else responded to them. They said that's exactly what this other person said to me. And I just said, well, maybe it's because God thought you could handle it. And that could be true. I don't know. However, I've thought about that many times after having that conversation. And I've thought, no, partly it's because we're in a fallen world. This was not God's intent. This was not God's purpose for us to have health issues or us to have mental health issues. That was not God's intent or purpose. However, He can bring good out of any problem. He can bring good out of anything out of anything, honestly. And so I know I watched a video on this man that was saying that the autism that his child had was actually a blessing, and he saw things from a different point of view, that he would have never seen things if his child wouldn't have had autism. and he sees the way that this child blesses other people by being in their presence, that this child wouldn't be able to do if his child wasn't autistic. And so I just say, like, yeah, you can look at all the bad things from it, but also what were the blessings that came from it? And that could be really hard. Maybe there aren't a lot of blessings. Maybe they're invisible blessings. I don't know. I don't know your story. I don't know your heart. I don't know your mind and your understanding of the situation. However, I do know that God allows things to happen, and sometimes he allows them to happen to make us stronger. Sometimes he allows them to happen to have a relationship with him. I think the biggest trials in our life, if we don't have a relationship with the Lord, or maybe we do and it's not that strong, or maybe it's strong and he wants to know us 100% better, or he wants us to know him 100% better because he already knows us. I think those trials are to grow spiritually and to grow in our relationship with him. One of my biggest trials, I'm going to be honest, was not giving birth. It was breastfeeding. And oh my goodness, was it painful? Was it I just cried every time I had to breastfeed. I wanted to shout and scream bad words every time I breastfed. Sometimes I probably did. It was so painful. I went to doctors and I asked for help. They were told me everything was right. It was fine. It shouldn't be painful. Nothing worked. I went to a mouth therapist to help my child latch on better. Nothing helped. And so finally I was desperate and I got down on my knees, and I knew exactly what the Lord wanted from me, and he had been asking me for a while to do this. And again, this is how I know it comes from the Lord and not from me, because I didn't want to do it. I did not want to do it, but I knew he wanted me to do it, which was find a church. I was like, dude, I just had a baby. I'm tired. I don't want to put the effort in to get up in the morning and look nice and take my kid to church and do all this and blah, 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 blah. I don't want to do it. Can it just wait until he's older? And God's like, nope. And so finally I got down on my knees and I was like, Lord, if you help this child latch, I will find a church. I will research and I will look around and I will find a church this week. I promise. And lo and behold, I went over, I picked my son up that I had been struggling to feed for like hours on end, and he just latched like that. Like it was nothing. That was it. Like he knew exactly what he was doing, and there was no struggle there. There was no problem with his mouth. There was nothing. He just latched. And I was like, all right, I hear you loud and clear. I will go find a church. And so I believe that he let me go through that struggle because I'm stubborn. And he calls it stiff-necked in the Bible. The Israelites were stiff-necked, and he had to put them through trials to bend them and reshape them, to mold them to be able to listen to him and understand that he knows best. That's part of trusting in the Lord as well, is when he asks us to do something, which this is something that I fail at a lot. He asks us to do something, and we have to trust in him enough to know that he knows what's best for us and the people around us and for his ministry. Even if it's something, especially if it's something that you don't want to do, most likely it came from the Lord. If it seems like it could bring something good from whatever he's asking you to do, and yet it feels uncomfortable, that is growth that the Lord is trying to get you to do. But anyways, this video has become 30 minutes long, and I'm just rambling. I hope that this was helpful to someone. If you stayed till the end, I mean, pat yourself on the back. Much love. Again, I hope this wasn't insulting to anybody. I just made this to really anybody that wants to possibly think about pro-life versus pro-choice, and if they were on the fence about it, hopefully this has helped them make the decision. I don't know, just leave you with God bless and have a good night. Bye.